You know, Africans have a problem. And the major problem is wanting to believe that someone else will fight your battle for you. I just explained this at length. We, from the very beginning, I told you, we received all kinds of offers, not just from Russia. Many countries offered to send troops to help us and everything. We said no.
First of all, my family, before we get into the details or the message of Captain Ibrahim Traoré over the attacks in Mali, let's look at what Captain Ibrahim Traoré said before all these things about security. Let's watch.
You know, Africans have a problem. And the major problem is wanting to believe that someone else will fight your battle for you. I just explained this at length. We, from the very beginning, I told you, we received all kinds of offers, not just from Russia. Many countries offered to send troops to help us and everything. We said no, no, and no, because I have instilled a mentality in the military leadership and everyone. Our fight is ours first. Our security is ours first. No one will do it for you. If someone else does it, those are no longer your lands. First of all, if someone has to ensure your security for you, it is not your security. You are being held. And if you have to be taught security procedures by someone else, it means they know your procedures. They know everything. And if you form an alliance thinking that in case of trouble, your ally will come and fight for you, you have it all wrong. And I keep saying this to those close to me and to others, count on yourself first. And when you count on yourself and develop your own tools, you have no fear a priori. That is very important. So no, we do not rely on others. And if there are Russian allies who have been counting on Russia for certain events, that is their problem. I do not count on Russia being there in the first hours if something happens here. No, I do not count on that. The only support Russia can provide is if I want to buy something to defend myself and they agree to sell it to me. That is all. But you do not ask allies to come and die for you. Why? Are you not human beings? If you behave like that, you are putting yourself in the position of a second-class human, meaning you are not human beings on the same level as others. But that is the horror many people commit, even heads of state whose security is ensured by foreign nationals. That is not serious. Second thing, how many heads of state, even when their own men provide security, send them abroad to be trained? That means we lack the intelligence to develop something ourselves. If you send your security detail to be trained elsewhere, it means those people know your procedures. They know everything around you. So you have achieved nothing. You sit there thinking you are dressed, but you are naked. So there are many things Africans must take into account, and that others too must take into account. We like to say in the village, when someone washes your back, be quick to wash your own face. So if there are strategic alliances that provide support in certain spheres, the rest, you must develop yourself. Just as with the military industry, we are in Africa, sitting idle. We urgently purchased equipment to contain our threat. But do you think we will continue like that? In any case, not Burkina, because our mentality is different. From now on, we will produce military equipment for ourselves. And if people want it, we will sell it to them. Because I am convinced, we have brains too. We think, we are not stupid. But if you behave as if you are, you yourselves are showing others that you are stupid. You produce nothing, and you have no intention of producing anything. You develop nothing, neither tactically nor technically. You always lean on others, but you are not human beings in that case. You must not count on others. Count on yourself first. And that is at the individual scale in Burkina. Every Burkinabe must count on himself first. And the revolution is that mentality. Before, the world sat back and said, it is the state. It is the state. We are changing that. You must count on yourself first before calling on the state, and all the way up to the state level. It is the same. That is what I can say. So there is no fear. We have a system we have developed, which we are perfecting as we go. But no one comes to show us things, to teach us anything. As long as God has given us a brain, we use our brain to think.
Excellence, la visite.
You see, Africa is under fire, but the Sahel refuses to fall. Africa, this is not just another headline. This is a defining moment. On the morning of April 25th, Mali woke up to coordinated terrorist attack. Not random, not isolated, but calculated strikes aimed at breaking the spirit of a region that has chosen a different path. A path of sovereignty, a path of resistance, a path that refuses to kneel. But here is what they didn't expect. The Sahel didn't collapse, it stood firm. Under the leadership of Ibrahim Traoré and the Confederation of the Sahel States, the message that followed this attack was not fear, it was defiance. And that matters more than most people realized. Because for decades, the Sahel has been painted as a region of instability, a place dependent on external forces for security, direction, even identity. But today, that narrative is being challenged in real time. The attacks in Mali were highly coordinated, targeting strategic locations, aiming to inflict maximum damage, not just physically, but psychologically. This wasn't just about violence, it was about sending a message: stays in one place. But the response from the Malian Armed Forces, the FAMa, flipped that message on its head. Instead of retreat, there was resistance. Instead of chaos, there was coordination. Instead of fear, there was courage. And this is where the Pan-African perspective becomes critical. Because what is happening in the Sahel is bigger than Mali, is bigger than borders. It's about a continent that is slowly but surely redefining its relationship with power. From Burkina Faso to Niger, a new consciousness is emerging, one that says Africa must control its own destiny, its own resources, and its own security. Let's be honest, terrorism in the Sahel didn't start yesterday, and it doesn't exist in a vacuum. There are layers: geopolitical interests, historical interference, and power struggle that go far beyond what we see on the surface. So when the Confederation of the Sahel States described these attacks as part of a monstrous plot, it's not just rhetoric. It reflects a growing belief within the region that these stabilizations are not merely internal problems, but part of a larger game. And whether you agree or not, one thing is undeniable: the Sahel is no longer willing to be a passive player. This is a region that is chosen to fight back, not just with weapons, but with ideology, unity, and renewed sense of identity. The statement released in Ouagadougou wasn't just about condemning violence, it was about reinforcing a vision where African nations stand together, defend each other, and refuse to be divided. And that's powerful, because unity has always been Africa's greatest strength and its greatest challenge. So the question now is not just about Mali. The question is, will the rest of Africa stand with the Sahel, or will this moment pass like so many others before? As we reflect on the lives lost and the courage shown, one thing becomes clear: this is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where Africa is not just reacting but asserting, not just surviving but rising. If the Sahel holds the line, and if Africa listens, then April 25th, 2026 may one day be remembered not just as a day of tragedy, but as a turning point and a moment when a region under fire chooses unity over fear, and in doing so, reminded the world that Africa is not weak, Africa is awakening. Let's listen to the message of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the president of the Confederation of the Sahel States.
AES, following terrorist attacks carried out against the Republic of Mali, April 25th, 2026. The Confederation of Sahel States, in its ongoing struggle for sovereignty, was the target of terrorist attacks on the morning of April 25th, 2026, targeting several sites on Malian territory. The coordination of the attacks, the targets chosen, the forces involved, as well as the logistics and weapons used, clearly indicate that these were long-planned and coordinated operations aimed at inflicting heavy losses on defense and security forces and spreading terror among innocent civilian populations of the Confederation of Sahel States, particularly in Mali. The persistence of these barbaric and inhumane aggressions bears the mark of a monstrous plot supported by enemies of the Sahel's liberation struggle, carried out through the confederal dynamic of the AES. However, the sinister plan and destabilization attempts of these enemies of peace and unity in the Sahel were thwarted thanks to the professional, courageous, and determined response of the Malian Armed Forces. The Confederation of Sahel States emphasizes that these ignoble, cowardly, and barbaric acts against a sovereign member state cannot shake the determination of the brave peoples of the Sahel to live free, in peace, and with dignity. It expresses its deepest condolences to the families of the martyrs and wishes a swift recovery to the wounded. The Confederation of Sahel States expresses to the Malian people, the government of the Republic of Mali, and the valiant Malian Armed Forces, FAMa, its total, unconditional, and fraternal solidarity. It pays vibrant tribute to their extraordinary courage in repelling this barbaric aggression and neutralizing individuals from another era, acting on behalf of forces determined to undermine its sovereign vision. It expresses its gratitude to all states and partners who, in a spirit of solidarity, have shown their support to the Malian people and once again demonstrated their commitment to stand alongside the states and peoples of the Sahel. Done in Ouagadougou, April 25, 2026. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of the Confederation of Sahel States.